And our next guest knows all too well what that is like.
That's right. In 2013, the previous Attorney General, Eric Holder, signed off on an order to tap the personal phones and emails of one of our own, naming him a, quote, possible co-conspirator under the Espionage Act.
That man is James Rosen. He's a Fox News correspondent and author of a great new book, A Torch Kept Lit, and he joins us now from Washington. James, thanks for joining us. We said a little bit of it, but for our viewers, if you would, just briefly remind them of kind of what you went through in 2013.
Well, good to be with you, Pete, Abby, and Ed, and they teach us in TV school never to contradict the anchor unless it's absolutely necessary, and here I guess it is, because I have to clarify that I was not wiretapped. My parents were not wiretapped, which is where you place a listening device on someone's telephone line and you listen to their conversations. What happened to me was that the Attorney General, Eric Holder, under Barack Obama as president, secretly designated me a criminal co-conspirator and a flight risk, and thereby had a federal judge give the government permission to rifle through all my Gmails. They could read the emails, and then also to get all the phone records associated with about 20 phones that I used at that time in my reporting. All of those phone lines were 202 or 703, which are the area codes associated with Washington and the Pentagon, Northern Virginia area. One of those 20 phone lines was 718, and that referred to my parents' house on Staten Island at that time.
Wow. James, to remind people, what were they looking for? What were they trying to investigate here?
The Obama administration had launched an investigation to determine my sourcing for a series of reports I did on that time from the State Department about North Korea's nuclear weapons program. After all of this was disclosed by the Washington Post 4 years after that designation was applied to me, and that's how I learned about it, along with the rest of the world, President Obama, in a speech at National Defense University on counterterrorism, pronounced himself troubled by the idea that a working journalist would be criminalized for doing his job, and demanded that the person who was responsible for this, Eric Holder, the Attorney General, should get to the bottom of what happened and provide some reforms at the Department of Justice, which were, in turn, enacted.
Well, James, to bring it to this story and why we had you on today, obviously with the current president's tweets yesterday, alleging that President Obama was behind wiretapping him, wiretapping Trump Tower. Separate case, but related in the sense that the reaction from the Obama camp yesterday, as you saw, was President Obama never ordered surveillance of any American citizen. Thin line there, which is he didn't personally order it, but clearly in your case, someone in his administration ordered surveillance of you, a U.S. citizen. Period.
That's right. The surveillance extended, for example, to monitoring my whereabouts and my use of the swipe badge that I had as a member of the State Department press corps when I was leaving the building, where I was using telephones and so forth. And that was attributed to Eric Holder, who later told the Washington Post that it was the greatest regret of his tenure. And that, by all accounts, this was illegal and unprecedented. Not even Neil Sheehan, who was the New York Times reporter back in 1971 who published the Pentagon Papers, 7,000 classified documents, was designated by the Nixon administration as a criminal co-conspirator in a violation of the Espionage Act. So that was an honor that I had all unto myself. But in the case of what we're hearing now from President Trump, there's just a lot we don't know. We have to caution our viewers that we hope to learn more about it. But if it's true that the Obama administration went to the FISA court to get some kind of surveillance at Trump Tower, whether it was of a computer tower or whether it was of the president's telephone, as he seems to believe when he uses terms like wiretapping, we would like to know what basis of probable cause would have been asserted in order to secure that permission for that surveillance.
Does your own experience lead you to believe that something like this is possible? There's some dismissing it offhand, saying it would never happen. Is your experience that, in light of how you've seen the federal government work and the way people in power can use it, that it's possible that something like President Trump is alleging could have happened?
It's entirely plausible. This is the nature of the age in which we live, the age of Eric Snowden. But again, it remains unproved at this point. And believe me, we've now just heard from the White House press secretary, Sean Spicer, in a tweet storm of his own, saying that it is the view of the Trump White House that any committees that are investigating allegations of Russian contacts and Russian meddling in the election should also be investigating this allegation about President Obama wiretapping President Trump. And then this was the most remarkable of Sean's tweets. He said, the White House, neither the White House nor the President will comment further until such oversight is provided. That's probably the one thing Sean Spicer has ever said in his life that he's least sure will turn out to be true.
Right,
that
good
the
point,
president won't comment.
James, I think your perspective and your voice this morning is exactly what the American people need to hear. As someone who has personally experienced being investigated by the government, to say, everyone, take a step back. Anything is possible in this situation. We just have to wait and see how everything unfolds. Really important voice to have this morning, James. Thanks for being here.